What would you do if you walked into your kid's school and saw two other kids who looked exactly like them? Same eyes, same dimple when they smirk, same nervous foot tap in line. And the woman standing with them had the face you buried years ago. Do you keep walking, or does your whole life split open right there in the hallway? That's what happened to Chief Richard Adebola on a hot Thursday in Lagos, and I was close enough to hear the first lie crack. Before that hallway, you need to understand Richard's world. He sat on the 50th floor of Adebola Towers like a storm cloud that could choose whether to rain Lagos Island, glittering below boardrooms going quiet when he cleared his throat. Oil ports, power construction. He touched it, it grew. But for all that control, he couldn't manage the one thing that mattered most at home, his twin daughters. That was the one part of his life that refused to obey. Diana and Daisy, both 28, both beautiful, both impossible for different reasons. Diana was steady, a quiet engine with an MBA and a work ethic that made people sit up straighter. When she told her father, "Daddy, I want to earn my place," she meant it. She started as an intern and never asked for a shortcut. Half the company ran on her standards. Daisy was the firecracker. Architecture degree collecting dust. Banana Island parties, laughter too loud. Opinions even louder. The kind of charisma that fills a room and a temper that clears it. They loved each other like sisters do, which is to say they forgave quickly and kept score anyway. The night everything slid into motion, the family sat at the small dining table in their Victoria Island mansion. Pepper soup, steaming silver, clinking phones face down, because Catherine Richards' wife believed dinner meant you looked people in the eye. Richard stared at his spoon the way men do when they're about to say something they know will change a room. "Chief Benjamin Thompson's son is back from London," he said, trying to sound casual, Oliver. "We have discussed a union. He is a good man. Serious." Daisy didn't look up. "Then marry him, Daddy." Catherine cut her a look that said enough. Daisy sighed, set down her phone like a teenager. "Fine, I'm listening." Richard went on measured. "Oliver is disciplined, accomplished. Diana, would you meet him?" Diana didn't make a speech, she just nodded. "I'll meet him. If there is nothing there, we end it. If there is something, we explore it." That's Diana, no fireworks, just a clean line forward. The first dinner felt like a setup, but something real sparked anyway. Oliver wore a suit that fit a smile that didn't reach for attention, and a laugh he refused to force. He and Diana found a corner and fell into talk. Markets, literature, why values matter when the door is closed. Daisy, bored, played piano on her phone. At one point, she cut in. "Oliver, do you do anything fun, or is your wildest night reading the Financial Times with no glasses?" He grinned. "I travel, I eat well, I sail badly, I lose in tennis to people who don't deserve the win." Then he drifted back to Diana like there was gravity between them. If you've ever watched two people recognize a home they didn't know was missing, you know the quiet I'm talking about. By the engagement, Lagos society had already decided it was perfect. The wedding looked like money trying its best to imitate heaven. Orchids on marble gold against candlelight, a cathedral that hummed with choirs and gossip. Richard cried during his speech. 800 people saw it. He didn't care. "Oliver," he said, voice rough, "you are getting a woman whose yes is yes, whose back is straight in a storm. Take care of her heart." People clapped, toasted, danced. And in a shadowed corner, Daisy smiled, a practiced smile that didn't touch her eyes. Jealousy rarely shows up in a villain's cape. Sometimes it shows up with soup and soft questions. Daisy started visiting staff. Generous tips, sweet concern. "Please let me know if Diana is overworking." She told the housekeeper, "I want to surprise her with rest." At the office, a junior analyst who suddenly had new shoes began forwarding schedules always as a favor, always confidential. No one noticed. Why would they? Families like to believe the best, especially when the worst is wearing perfume and calling you sister. Then came the day a small pink line changed everything. Diana stood in Dr. Williams's office at St. Nicholas, hand over her mouth, eyes wet, 6 weeks pregnant, healthy. She floated home on plans. A dinner that night, a private reveal to Oliver, the future spilling out like sunlight. But late afternoon, an urgent call from Abuja, a merger knotted by new legal language only she could untie it. "Take the company helicopter, you'll be home by evening," they said. She kissed Oliver's cheek. "I'll be back by 6, then I have something to tell you." He smiled. "Hurry and be careful." "If it were you, would you have stopped her?" called the pilot. "Checked the maintenance log, begged her to take a car, or would you trust the machine you've trusted 100 times? You know what I mean." The chopper lifted at 2 p.m. Captain James at the controls, a veteran with hands that could pour coffee in turbulence. Halfway back, the engine coughs, then lurches, then screams. Mayday. Coordinates. Forest rising like a dark green wall. The impact was the kind of sound a human body shouldn't hear. When they found the wreckage, it was a crater in leaves. Captain James gone, Patricia gone, Diana missing. The memorial without a body felt like standing on a pier and throwing roses into fog. After Dr. Williams called Oliver, voice careful, "Mr. Thompson." She was pregnant. Oliver sat down and forgot how to get back up. Here's where people roll their eyes at destiny, but listen. In a village far from the noise where the night is honest and you can actually see the stars. A widow named Mama Grace heard a noise in her palm grove, something between a moan and a prayer. She looked up and saw a woman wedged in branches, broken but breathing. Mama Grace is small, 62, stubborn in a righteous way. She climbed like a girl, brought the stranger down, cleaned wounds with boiled water, and herbs, set bones with hands that had seen too many births and burials, hummed hymns, fed soup 1 spoon at a time. When the woman woke, her mind was a blank room. "What is your name, my daughter?" Mama Grace asked. The woman searched and found nothing, tears slipping down her temples. "Then your name is Ada." Mama Grace said, "First daughter, you are safe. Amnesia is not a switch, it's a slow fog." Ada learned what her hands already knew. Carrying water without spilling, pounding cassava, bargaining, fair keeping books in her head, settling arguments without raising her voice. She picked up the dialect fast, organized market day, like a manager, and the village started saying, "This woman is not ordinary." Then the nausea came. The clinic doctor smiled like a friend and hid teeth like a shark. Months later, in a sweltering labor room with 2 bright lights and not enough mercy, Ada delivered. Long, brutal, holy work, and 4 cries. That's right, not 2-4. 2 boys, 2 girls. But the doctor handed her only 2 and said, "Congratulations, twins." He stepped into the hall and made a call, a quiet one, to a wealthy couple with prayers that had turned into cash. "Do you think that's fair? Do you think poverty should make your babies a product? If it were you, what would you have done?" The Johnsons weren't evil. They were desperate and loving and drowning in an ache the world doesn't have a cure for. They took the babies to Ikoyi, hired nannies, specialists, nutritionists, all the hope money can buy. The babies cried anyway. Not colic, not hunger. A grief without language, a panic that didn't respond to lullabies or logic. Tests said healthy. A tired pediatrician finally whispered sometimes multiples separated at birth fall into attachment shock. It's rare. The bond is strong. The Johnsons tried until their marriage cracked. One night broken, they left the babies at Lagos University Teaching Hospital with a note. Please take care of them. Find their real family. Fate loves a hallway. Oliver was at Louth the next day, flowers in hand for a colleague's wife who'd delivered. He overheard two nurses abandon twins inconsolable, nothing works. He should have kept walking. He didn't. He asked to see them. The pediatrician warned him more. They won't stop crying. Oliver put his hand on the boy's chest, then the girl's, and the room changed a hush like church. The babies blinked up at him as if they'd recognized something you can't name. He came back the next day, and the next started paperwork, interviews, home visits, the gauntlet of adoption. He named them Peter and Priscilla. Peter because he needed to be a rock again, Priscilla because she felt like an old soul from the first minute. Richard and Catherine were unsure at first. So soon, Catherine asked, tea cooling in her hand. Grief is not a ladder you climb on schedule. Then she watched Oliver on the floor with two laughing babies and softened. They brought light back into his eyes, she said. Richard nodded and pretended to assess risk like a CEO. Daisy did not clap. She pivoted. You need help, she told Oliver, sweeping in with formula and designer diapers, a smile that felt like a plan, rearranging furniture, cooking stew, answering the door. Grief will make you grateful for any hand that doesn't drop you, even if that hand is calculating its next move. Yeah, that happened. Meanwhile, Ada raised Timothy and Tina in the village with patience and grit, little philosophers with dusty shoes. Why do plants know the direction of the sun? Tina asked. Why do birds sing one song at dawn and another at night? Timothy wondered. Ada taught reading by lantern glow, lined up bottle caps for math, treated honesty like oxygen. The past didn't return to her head, but it showed up in her habits. She saved coins in a jar and courage in a notebook. One evening under a mango tree, she turned to Mama Grace. We should go to the city. They need more than this. Mama Grace smiled like she'd been waiting. These are my grandchildren. I go where you go. They moved to Surulere. Not glam, not grim, just honest. 2 rooms, a fan with a mood, a neighbor who sold puff puff at first light. Ada hit the markets like she'd been training for it, which she had. Buying smart in the village, selling fair in the city, shaking the right hands, remembering the right names. The kids enrolled in a school that smelled like chalk and ambition. They didn't fit their uniforms yet, but they fit the work. Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind. It was PTA day. The parking lot, a car show, the hallway, a runway of careful smiles. Oliver came with Peter and Priscilla, ironed and hopeful. Richard showed up to be seen, to shake hands, to pretend community ties grow from press photos. He was halfway through a speech about partnerships when the hallway made him stop breathing. 2 kids by the water dispenser. Same eyes as Peter and Priscilla, same quiet electricity, except their shoes were scuffed and their laughter didn't apologize. Beside them, a woman with kindness around her mouth and a small scar near her temple, the kind you forget until a mirror finds it. Pattern interrupt. Richard froze. Body first, brain later. A titan turned statue. He whispered a name I couldn't catch. Ada turned because children are magnets, and her too had spotted 2 more who looked like a joke the universe might tell on a wild day. The 4 of them stood there face to face, and something ancient hummed. Timothy touched Peter's wrist like he was testing a mirror. Tina and Priscilla tilted their heads the same way without planning it. The hallway got quiet around them like schools do when something bigger than tests is happening. Oliver approached, protective and stunned hand on his son's shoulder. His smile fell away. He didn't recognize Ada the way you recognize a neighbor. It was deeper than that, like grief hearing a key in a lock. Richard came up behind him and made a sound. I've only heard from men who realize money can't fix the thing they broke. Catherine. He breathed, then flinched at his own slip, because his wife Catherine was alive and well, and the woman in front of him wasn't Catherine. What he meant was a different name his mouth hadn't dared in years. Diana. Ada stood her ground, polite, steady. May I help you? Oliver tried words that sounded crazy even as he spoke them. Your children. They look like ours. Richard did what men do when they can't speak straight without proof. He pulled up a photo on his phone of Diana in white lace, beaming like someone who deserved everything good. Do you know this woman? He asked. Ada looked, and something in her chest moved a door in the mind. Unstuck a wave, pulling back to show you the bones of a ship. I don't know, she whispered, and tears hit the floor like punctuation. Teachers' whispered phones came out, the rumor ran. I thought of Daisy's sudden domesticity, her encrypted phone, a maintenance crew paid in cash, a pilot who trusted a machine too much. Coincidence has edges, conspiracy fits like a puzzle once you've seen the picture. If it were you, right there at the water dispenser, would you call a lawyer, a priest, a DNA lab, or all three? Do you think that's fair? That a hallway can undo the map of a family and redraw it in real time? We found a small office and squeezed in. Plastic chairs, buzzing fluorescent, a window that didn't open. The kids were given juice and told to stay together. I watched Priscilla find Tina's hand like she'd been practicing. Watched Peter mirror Timothy's posture like he'd found a twin he didn't know he'd lost. Oliver told his story. The hospital, the adoption, the miracle of quiet. Ada told hers. The village, the clinic, the labor that felt bigger than the room. Mama Grace added the tree that broke a fall and the God who sent her into the grove on the right day. Richard listened like a man at the edge of a cliff, toes over air. And then Oliver said the sentence that flipped the board. You didn't have twins. You had 4. The room inhaled. Ada's eyes closed and a memory pulled through, not clear, not perfect, but stubborn. 4 cries layered like a choir. She opened her eyes. I remember. There were 4 voices. Richard's shoulders shook, not with power this time, not with rage, with relief and terror braided together. Diana, he said finally, saying the name out loud, the sound of a father asking for a miracle he doesn't deserve. We didn't solve it in that office. Real life refuses bows. We walked out into questions cameras, a city hungry for story. There would be DNA tests. There would be uniforms at a clinic with a clean reception and a dirty back room. There would be a ledger that didn't match receipts. There would be Daisy's texts lighting up screens and a judge reading them slowly. There would be a maintenance report that got edited, a pilot who did his job, a machine that didn't, and someone who wanted that outcome. There would be a mother remembering in pieces and a family trying to stitch those pieces into something whole. And at the center, 4 kids who just wanted to sit together at lunch. Here's the part that's bigger than one family. We live in a world where some people treat children like inventory and grief like an opportunity. We also live in a world where a widow climbs a tree for a stranger and a man adopts 2 babies because his arms believed before his brain did. Which world wins depends on what we do next. Do you think I'm being naive, or do you think that's the only kind of faith that ever changed anything? As for what's fair, I'm still wrestling. Is fairness DNA, a last name, a birth certificate? Or is it the person who sat up at 3 a.m.? The face that quieted your panic? The voice that taught you not to lie, even when lying was easy? When 2 kinds of love, blood and daily bread, walk into the same courtroom, who should the law stand with first? If it were you on that stand, what would you say? Here's where I leave you today. Not with an ending, but with a reckoning. A doctor who sells babies, a sister who chose envy over blood, a system that lets money talk louder than truth, and a hallway where 4 children recognized each other by instinct and broke a spell adults had maintained for years. The DNA results are coming, the clinic's ledger will be read out loud, and Daisy's messages will have to answer questions she can't charm her way past. When that happens, that's when the real storm hits. So talk to me. If this were your family, what would you fight for first? Truth, custody, forgiveness, revenge. Do you think the law should favor biological ties, or the parent who showed up every day? What's justice here, and what does mercy look like without becoming weakness? Drop your thoughts in the comments, argue with me. Tell me where you draw the line, share your own story, if money pulled one way and love pulled the other. Your voice matters here more than you know.